If you're going to be a high achiever, you have to believe that you are. And that for any entrepreneur, I mean, there's going to be times when it's up and down, and there's going to be down times when we all have self-doubt. We all have this like fear. We all have anxiety. Like no one is immune to that. But the ones that are able to break through it have such a faith in themselves. Like they just know that they're that guy.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Today I am talking to Dan Trepanier, the best dressed man in America, and a man who has helped thousands of other men look better. Dan, why, in your opinion, are clothes so important? Why is it that what we wear is important?
I mean, I think clothing is part of your identity, right? And as we spoke about before, it's like people are going to make snap judgments about you, right? Like people are going to look you up and down and say, can I trust this person? Is this person who they say they are? So I try to help guys put their best foot forward and bring the most opportunity to them to make themselves more attractive. And not just in like a dating sense, like so people kind of gravitate towards them and they have that confidence that makes them feel like, they can do what they want to do.
Yeah, interesting what you said about like, guys sort of controlling that, like people's perception of them and clothing being a major part of that. I spoke with a friend of mine's dad. He's a lawyer. He got out of law school. He's broke. He's got no money. He doesn't really have any job offers at this point in time, and
he'll be all right.
Super in debt. And somehow, I don't know how he did this. He got a loan or borrowed some money from somebody, and he bought a very nice car and like 5 custom tailored suits that were very nice, like Italian. And he said that was the best investment he ever made. Like just as much as the investment in his law degree, that was the best investment he ever made. He went right into practice for himself. And he's like, that alone, number one, I was way more confident. Like I saw myself as what I thought I was supposed to be. And, as cheesy or cliche as it is, I saw myself as that. And I needed to see myself as the cliche at the time because I had nothing,
Yes.
And other people saw me the same way. When you see yourself that way, other people will see you that way too.
That's it. That's it, man. And I've written about this before. It's like we often talk about the external benefits of fashion. You look good. Women are attracted to you, whatever. You stand out from the crowd. But it's really the internal benefits that are the most impactful and then trickle to the external benefits. That's what you're talking about, right? You put something on that is right for you. You know it's right for you. You just feel good. It's almost like your skin brightens. You just feel like, the best version of yourself. And then people notice that. So, I'm glad your story ended with that was a good investment because I see that all the time. Right? You look 6 months later from when the guy invests in himself. And to your point, you want to invest in yourself internally. You want to get educated. You want to be healthy. But also, you want to put on the right clothes. You want to have the right image to meet your goals, right? And that's the number one thing I help guys with is like, who are you? Who do you want to be? And now let's look at your wardrobe. Okay, your wardrobe's not telling that story at all, bro. It's really not even close. So that's the disconnect that a lot of guys I think have is they want to be this guy. They don't necessarily feel like that guy, or other people definitely don't think they're that guy. You got to believe it yourself, and you got to be it to believe it, and then that can change everything. I think we went through a bit of a not mental health crisis, but mental health awareness peak where people were like, "Whoa, I need to take care of myself here." And I would say I think it's a good thing that there's less clothing being purchased. I think we also peaked on the fast fashion, like that's the opposite way to do it, right? If you're just buying bullshit, throwing it on, you never really get the sense of like when you put on something that is like proper, right? Like you want to feel like, okay, this is quality. This is something that'll last. I think people are thirsty for that. So I champion like buy less, buy better. We're moving through a period of just like consumption, just and into a little bit more thoughtful space.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like how you're positioned that way, right? Like it's not we're not doing product drops every week, right? It's capsule wardrobing. You said the words investing in yourself, and the thought that I had where we started this. Why is the way you dress important? It's not, right? You can do whatever, however you dress, right? And sorry, I shouldn't say it's not, but however you dress, you can do whatever. What is important is the mindset of investing in yourself. And people who have that mindset invest in their wardrobe in some way, right? Some men less than other men. But you don't catch them wearing stuff that doesn't fit or that they don't really want. They just have it. They wear stuff that they want to wear. They wear stuff that they feel represents them, makes them look good, makes them feel good, makes them play good, makes them get paid good. I was at a dinner a couple months ago with somebody who is a mindset coach for high achievers.
Whoa.
And yeah, a little woo woo.
There's a
I don't
lot of
know.
that.
I've
There's a
never
lot of
done
that
it.
now.
Yeah, I've never done it. I don't want to knock it, but
What,
I'm sure it's helpful. Honestly,
has he achieved some things that are remarkable? That would be my first question.
well, okay, so it's nice to have like a dinner with that kind of guy because you get to have a conversation. I don't know if I mean I do believe in mindset and I do believe in investing in yourself for sure. I
Absolutely.
think that you gotta decide where you're gonna invest in yourself. Um, but I asked him like what's kind of like the number one like breakthrough element that like is holding people back. And he said a lot of people want to be something. This is kind of what you said a second ago. They want to be something. They have a picture in their mind of what they want to be, and it's in their mind, and it's not them, and it's hopefully some future state of them, maybe if they work hard now. And the main switch that has to flip in order for them to achieve it is they have to actually just see themselves as that now, currently, today. Even if they're not, they have to see themselves as that.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, you have to believe it. You have to believe,
Yeah.
and there's so many examples of this everywhere you look. Like you look at people that are the highest achievers, and you look back at some of the things they said and done, and they're like the cockiest people alive. But that's the secret. Like you look at Kanye West. Did you watch the Kanye West documentary, the 3 part thing?
Yeah. Yeah. Like before he was big, he was so
Yes. So
confident.
yeah, so the scene that stuck out to me was he's driving a car, getting filmed and getting interviewed for this piece, right? And he can't get the record deal. He's going to all these labels, can't get the record deal, and he's saying like, man, I can't believe I can't even get this first. Like I can't get a record deal. I'm going to do so much more than this. This is like the first step in this bullshit, and I can't even like what is going on. But and I'm not like praising Kanye or whatever,
Yeah.
but like he believed he was going to be this super influential person in fashion when he had no reason to say that. But yeah, I think you have to believe it. And I think you have to give yourself as much ammunition to believe it. And I think some of that is the way you look, the way you feel, your health. Like you have to, if you're going to be a high achiever, um, you have to believe that you are. And that for any entrepreneur, I mean, there's going to be times when it's up and down, and there's going to be down times when we all have self doubt. We all have this like fear. We all have anxiety. Like no one is immune to that. But the ones that are able to break through it have such a faith in themselves. Like they just know that they're that guy.
Yeah.
I learned that from a young age because my how I got started was I was a hoops guy.
I play basketball probably 5 to 6 times a week.
Get the fuck
Just came
out of
from basketball.
here. 5 to 6 times a
Yeah.
week?
Yeah. I play a lot of pickup, man.
Oh my God, dude, I'm jealous. I got 2 kids. I play once a week.
Yeah. That's good.
uh,
Dude, as long as you're still playing, you know?
so, my thing was like, I grew up in Canada where we have hockey guys, we have hockey players that go to the pros. We have very little. Now we actually are much better in this regard. But when I was growing up, we didn't have any, other than Steve Nash, it was very unlikely that you would go on a basketball scholarship, go to the States. So my mind at that time was like, fuck everybody. Like everyone was telling me, you're not going to do it. You're not going to get a scholarship. You're not going to the States. And I was in the gym like 8 hours a day just training. And people were like, dude, you're it was OD. It was like, you're doing too
Hmm.
much. Like it's not going to work. So I just shut everyone out. And I had a mentor at that time who kind of trained me on that. I was like, listen, when you're going to try to do something different, Everyone's going to tell you it's not possible, or you're wasting your time, or you should be enjoying your younger years more, not working so hard, or whatever. But I can't tell you how many people told me I was absolutely not going to get a basketball scholarship. Like that was coming at me every day. And I put the blinders on and did that. And that was the life lesson that has stuck with me through all of this. It's similar with fashion. Like I grew up on a farm. I had no business being in fashion. So people are like, "Well, you're not going to be a fashion designer. Look at you, man. You're a farm boy turned athlete. Like that doesn't even make sense,
Mm-hmm.
So long story short, people are going to tell you there's a million reasons why it's not going to work. And if you let that affect you, it's over. It's over. Like you have to be so in your own belief because people are going to punch you in the face every single day. It's never easy. And if you don't believe that you're going to make it, you won't. You just won't.
You start to get around the people who are the right people. So we don't cover my background a lot on the show. I ran track. I grew up playing basketball in all the sports, right? But I ran track. That was what I was really good at. I ran track at the college level.
What did you do?
I was a distance runner.
Oh, okay.
Yes, the worst thing to do. The whole point is to just get really
sounds
tired.
Miserable.
Yeah, the whole point is like, hey, if you pass out or throw up at the end, great job.
You won, bro.
Fantastic. Yeah. You killed it today. Yeah.
That takes that's a different dog in you to do long distance.
Yeah, right. There's no point. It's just like the point is to perfectly meter out my exhaustion.
Well, it's got to be also just a total mental. Like it's got to be just pushed through. Like, and that's a huge life lesson too.
Some people run casually or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, what headphones do you like?" Or like people ask me that all the time. I'm like, "No headphones." Oh, they're like, "You telling me you go out and you run for an hour with no headphones?" I'm like what I did. First of all, what I did is like what I do compared to like somebody casual running. And I don't mean to sound like a dick or cocky about this. I'm like, let's not compare like lions to house cats. First of all, but secondly, that was the game. Like the game was being comfortable, being uncomfortable.
Right. It's almost like you're taking that. It's part of training. You take something that makes it easier, you take it away. Right.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, I think you end up getting around the right people over time, right? There are some people who are.
You gotta learn that too, though. You gotta learn that too. You have to be like, I learned that early too. It was like this dude thinks he's your friend. He's fucking telling people you're not going to do it. Fuck him. Yeah. You have to do that a lot. You have to do that a lot.
One of the things I found myself doing, and I don't know, maybe give a little background on like where you grew up and how big it was and stuff like that. But did you find yourself kind of actually inspiring some other people who are like, that's cool, I want to get on board with that, and like bring them on the journey? My cross country program in high school was like, okay. And I came in and it was very clear that like, one, I was pretty talented, and two, I cared and I was going to work really hard. And the other dudes started doing the same. And like, they were like, oh, this is cool. And we got good. Right. And we were like second in state in track and stuff like that. And we, had a couple people end up getting scholarships in track, and they weren't that like, they used to play ultimate frisbee every day for practice before I came around, right? Like they were just having fun. And then I came around, they're like, now we're doing these interval workout. Like what do we sign ourselves up for here? Yes. And did you find yourself like, I think when people are really passionate about something, there are some people like you're saying where it's like, dude, you in the gym 8 hours again tonight? Like, let's go out. And there are some people who are like, that's cool. Can I come with?
I mean, for sure, you're gonna influence people. You're gonna inspire people for sure. I think it's a little bit. It's almost a gift and a curse. You gotta be careful with that though, because like I was a weirdo. Like I was in the gym all the time. I didn't go out. I didn't go to high school parties. My whole high school, like I was having. My dad worked a factory job. He was a Chrysler worker on the line. He was also a farmer, but as the hardest working guy of all time. He would go to work. He'd be on either days or afternoons. He'd rotate. So if he's on days, he'd have to be there early. So he'd drop me off at the high school. I knew the janitor. The janitor would open the door for me. I'm getting a 2-hour workout by myself in the gym, turning the lights on before school. I'm in there at lunch for 45 minutes. And then I'm in the gym from the moment school ends until late. Like when my dad was on afternoons, he would pick me up at like 11:30 on the way home. So like that's all I did, right? So people thought I was like crazy, you know, they were like worried about me for a while, but then you start to get good, right? I became one of the best players in all of Canada. Like I was a highly
You start
recruited,
dropping 20 a game, 25 a game,
yeah,
and
or
people are like,
50.
oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was in the newspapers. So then people are like, oh shit, like he's got it, you know? And then yes, you inspire people, but it's also like, you don't really want to, you either have it in you or you don't. Like you want to be careful with people trying to emulate you and you kind of like egging them on. Even with entrepreneurship, I find this so much worse
Yeah.
with entrepreneurship now. It's like, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur. Okay, but you got to have the dog in you, just like you're showing up to the gym for 8 hours. Otherwise, it ain't
Yeah.
gonna work. So you don't want to tell people, hey, this is what you need to do. Like if you need someone to tell you to show up to the gym to work out, that it's over already, you know? Like
Yeah.
so you gotta know who you are and am I, can I actually handle this, you know?
It kind of reminds me of, and this is how it ended up being for me, is like I started training hard. I wasn't telling anyone else to do it, but I started doing it. And it was like, you hear the stories about Kobe Bryant being like, well, look, I'm going to be there at 5 a.m. You can be there or not. I don't care. I'm going
Yeah.
to be there either way,
Yes.
you know?
He's the
And
poster
some
boy
guys
for
would
that.
step up and do it, and some guys would not.
Yes.
And that's kind of how it was for me. It was like, well, I'm going to do this. Like, you guys can come with me if you want, you know, or you can play ultimate frisbee. I don't care.
Yeah.
Um,
And that is like one of like what you have, like that is a talent that is really hard to replicate if you don't already have it, you know?
mhm.
Like it's really hard to train the dog in you. I keep using that phrase. I don't know how else to say it, but it's like,
No, I got you.
you
Yeah,
know what I
that's a
mean?
great
Like
phrase.
you either want it so bad that it's not even like you want, it's just like you're not going to do anything else. Like it's like it's all or nothing. And there's so many. I love the sports to entrepreneurship analogies because they're so similar. But that's just how it is, man. It's like you can't really teach it if it's not already there, you know. And I think you need to listen to that.
I notice a lot when I talk to entrepreneurs, founders. Uh, there's almost always one of like three things that comes out of their childhood. One, they were a very serious athlete. That's mine. That's yours. There's a lot of those, right? College athlete, or like took it very seriously. We're on travel teams. Love, like, and the kind of athlete that loved the game. You know what I mean? Like, you
Yeah,
loved basketball.
was obsessed. Yeah,
Right. And not just, you weren't just doing it because your parents wanted you to or something. Like, you loved basketball. So that's thing one. Thing two is like, they've always had that like hustler in them. Like, they're the kid flipping shoes or buying dollar store candy and selling it at school. Like,
that was me too.
yeah. They're like, there's always some little hustle going on in their
Yeah,
brain. That's another one. And then the other one that's a little bit weird or uncharacteristic. And the athlete thing, it can extend. So some of them would be like drama kids or dancers or something like that. But
yeah,
they took something very seriously, right?
yeah. Just
And
going
then the other thing that's
all eggs in one basket type mentality.
yeah. The other thing that is interesting that I find is gamers, specifically gamers who, like same kind of thing, took it seriously, but developed interesting skills, like started hosting their own servers, or like they're like curious and they're like figure out people, and people who, I'm going to beat this level. Oh, but then once I do this, then I could do this. Like, they kind of like building blocks. And those are like three things that are incredibly common in almost every entrepreneur and high achievers childhood that I've found. Like, I can almost always set a table and be like, so were you a gamer, or were you an athlete, or were you always just hustling stuff, hustling shoes and stuff? And they were like, oh, how'd you know? I'm like, yeah, because it's one of those three. It always is.
Yeah, and I would say all of that is like confidence in yourself. Like you're
Yeah.
basically saying like I'm gonna figure this out. Like I don't necessarily like, who cares who the coach is, who cares who the boss is. Like I'm gonna make my own skill set. I'm gonna make my own money. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm so thankful that I mean, who knows what would have happened, but like that is a skill set or a mentality that like you can't shut off, and for better or worse, to be honest with you. But I'm grateful that I I was taught early and bought into just like powering through for what you want, because it's so much harder than people realize, you know. Like there's
Yeah.
so many more roadblocks and times when you think you're achieving and it's boom, you're back down to zero. Like it's endless. It's endless. Like people who
Yeah.
don't eat what they kill, build their own business, are their own man. Like people who don't do that, they don't they don't really get it. You know,
Yeah.
they don't really. It's impossible to tell you how that actually feels day to day. You know, and then you add you got a family, you got kids, you're pulled in a million different directions. You want to watch your kids grow up. You want to make money. There's no security, and there's no one to teach you how to deal with that lack of security, except for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's and the other thing that it is, aside from like it's constantly getting knocked down, getting knocked down, getting knocked down, but besides that, it's a whole bunch of time, and this is entrepreneurship, and this is I'll use the basket. You said you'd be in the gym from the moment school got out till 11:30 at night. That's like 6 to 7 hours, maybe 8 hours, right? Like that's a super long time just putting up shots, working on your bag, and then you go play a high school basketball game that are in the States at least 32 minutes long. Right. So it's like you would 7 hours a day, 7 hours a day, so that you could play basically like 2 games a week that were 32 minutes long. And then even still, even with that ratio of time in training to game, you still have nights where nothing goes in.
Yeah,
You
you
know
got
what I mean?
bad. I mean, that's you got bad nights. I mean, that's you. That's the lesson. You work so
Yeah.
hard for tiny, tiny incremental change,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. The
if
public part is only very small.
and you got to take a very long view.
So grew up, it was basketball. I grew up in a small town farming, and it was basketball, basketball, basketball. Got good enough, played at the college level. Where'd you play at?
I played at Columbia University in New York City.
Nice. Okay.
Ivy
So
League.
that's what brought you to New York in the first place. Um, and then bridge from basketball to entrepreneurship. What's that? I mean, did you work a bunch of jobs or did you get right into it?
Holy man. I never worked any jobs. I always, I couldn't, I could, dude, when I was in high school, I worked one shift at Tim Hortons. You know what Tim Hortons is?
Yes. Even in the States, I'm familiar with what Tim Hortons runs Canada,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. It's our Dunkin' Donuts, basically.
Yeah,
But there's
it's
way
right.
more Canadian pride and history involved there. It's a coffee shop, donut shop, whatever.
Yeah.
And I couldn't, like my mom always told me, like, you're never gonna work for someone. Like I was watching that clock, man. Like I couldn't look harder at the fucking clock. I was like, I can't believe I'm still fucking here, man. I was like shaking, you know? So like I knew I was never gonna work a job.
Okay.
That I knew early. But yeah, I made the best decision. I mean, I don't know if it's best, but a very good decision was to go to Columbia University because I became a very good basketball player. I was highly recruited. I had like Stanford, Michigan State coming to my high school games, stuff like that. And again, I had another good mentorship, and someone said, "Listen, you're gonna get it. You're gonna get your education paid for. Like that is, you've made it there." Now you have to think about, okay, this is a school that you never would have got into in the first place. So not only are you getting it paid for, but you're skipping the admissions process. And that,
Did you just really quick? Sorry to interrupt you. Did you have the grades for Columbia? Because Columbia also recruited me, and I did not have the grades for Columbia. And the track coach basically said, "Yeah, it's all right."
well, I mean, it's a tricky question. So would I have gotten into Columbia without basketball? 100,000% absolutely fucking not. I mean, the
Right.
people that get into Columbia they're unbelievable. And that was
Yeah.
a huge thing to get over as me because I had my Canadian high school education. I show up, and these kids in my class are like unbelievable human beings. You got like a guy sitting in front of me is like a world class pianist.
Mm.
The girl behind me, she started a school in Africa. You got the smartest kids from all over the world. So no, I never would have got in. You
Yeah.
still, even on the basketball team, the way this worked, I don't even know if it's still the same because some things have changed, but it's like a team average. So
Yeah.
in the Ivy League, you have a couple kids that are like brainiacs that don't play any minutes, that
Yeah.
bring
It's
your they bring your whole
11th, 12th
average.
guy on the bench. Yep.
Yeah, but you don't really have any dummies because they have
Mhm.
to be stupid nice to be a dummy. You know what I mean? Because they're affecting the. So you have a lot of guys that are great players and pretty good students, as I would
Yeah.
say, and then you have a couple really smart guys, and then you might have an absolute beast who's like a bit of a dum dum who really struggles throughout his tenure in the classroom. You know.
Yeah.
Um,
But you're like, it's all right. We'll just have him do like 5 hours of study table a day,
Oh,
and
dude,
he'll
we
get
had.
through.
I mean, we had tutors, all the tutors we needed. There was a lot of resource for us, and it was hard. It was
Yeah.
really, really hard. There was no like, hey, this guy's going to take your test. Hey, you don't have to show up for the exams. Like some of these schools, that's not how the Ivy League. They don't fuck around with that,
No,
right?
no, that isn't how it gets done in the Ivy League, and it does in a lot of. And usually there's majors where you'll find a lot of the athletes. So at my school,
Right.
I went to Weber State at the same time as Dame. We're the same age,
Okay.
Dame Lillard. And
86.
what's that?
What year are you born?
I was born in '90.
Oh, okay, okay. You're talking about
So
different Dan.
Damian Lillard. Yeah.
Oh, Damian Lillard was at the school when you were there.
Yeah, we're the same age, just like a
Oh,
month
okay.
apart. So I always say the thing I say about it, I've said it several times on the podcast, is if Damian Lillard saw me, he might be like, "Do I know you?"
You were the
That's
track
our
guy,
level.
right?
Yeah, are you the chalk guy from Weber State? That's our level. So, but at Weber State, and I'm not throwing shade at Damian Lillard because this is also what his degree is in. You find a lot of them in technical sales. That's their degree, or so that's how most schools work. Is there are certain majors where you'll find a lot of like football players and basketball players, and those are the majors where they're like, yeah, we get it. Like it's
I
not
mean,
going to be too hard.
I met guys in big programs, never even went to class,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
but we didn't know. We
Nobody's
didn't.
taking their tests from. Yeah.
We didn't. So anyway,
Not in the IVs.
no, they don't fuck around at all. And there's like a little stigma too, because like the kids in the class are like, hey, how come you're here? My best friend, who was also as smart as me in my high school, didn't get in because you're fucking sitting here.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you should come to a game, have a beer, and fucking chill the fuck out. We're bringing some culture to this fucking school. But to answer your question, so I go to Columbia. We were talking about the story of how this all. I mean, it's
Yeah. So,
depends how.
so
I mean, it's a
Columbia
long.
hoops. Did you play hoops after college? Like, how did you get from hoops to like entrepreneurship and founding what you did?
So I'm in college. I'm before college. I figured out and I experienced the eBay hustle.
Mm.
That was my very first foray. I mean, you got to think this is before Facebook, before Instagram. This is to young people listening to this. They don't understand what we were, how we were living.
Right. Yeah.
So eBay
There
became
was eBay.
that was
You could make some money on eBay though.
you could flip for sure, and that was my game. So before I even got to Columbia, I was really worried about how I was going to look because I didn't want to be the farm boy come to New York City in my, you know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
was
Hey, we got some seeds here. I like it.
well, you're moving to New York City, right? And it's like, holy, like this is a whole different. I grew up in a town of like 500 people.
Yeah.
Like the neighbors, you can't even see.
Did you guys have a stoplight, or you didn't need one of those?
Literally, no. We had a stop sign.
You had
But,
You had one sign. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you know the vibes, right? So it's
Yeah.
like it's cornfields and whatnot. And so I was nervous about that. So I started, okay, I've got no money. Like, how can I figure out how to buy some clothes to show up to look like, something? And at that time, it was all like urban streetwear, right? So we were wearing like Sean John, Aniche, Rockaware, double
Yeah.
XL jeans. Like I was like the hood white kid, like I had the bald fade with the 1.5 on top with the tight lineup. And I got that cut every week. I had the big stones in the ears. I even had cornrows for a minute. Allen Iverson was like my idol, right? So
Yeah, did you start wearing arm sleeves?
No, I never wore the arm sleeve. No, it fucked up my jumper.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was a totally different type of style, but I still knew like this was important as far as like I wanted to show up big man on campus, right? I wanted to be like, yo, I'm ready to get some buckets. I'm the man, right? That's how you want to show up. So I'm on eBay buying fucking used Rockaware jeans for $12 or whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got to college, you have no money in college. That's the other thing that now it's totally different with the NIL. We didn't have any of that.
Yeah,
So
no, I know.
now,
I mean, and I think it's a good thing personally. Like some people are like, "Are you salty about that?" And I'm like, No, I think it's a good thing because it's like really hard. But yeah, no, it was a very different experience now when we were doing
Now, I
it.
mean,
I think
that's
you
a
maybe
whole
even a little before
different.
me.
We could talk about that. That's a whole different topic.
Yeah,
But um, you know,
yeah,
we just didn't have any money. Our school was paid for, but we didn't have any money. So
no,
what I learned, and like you said, like I was a hustler, right? Like I learned that in New York City, you can find anything at a discount, right? So I was like, oh shit, like I used to pay this for a Sean John t-shirt. Now I can go to this discount place in Harlem, which Columbia is basically in Harlem. So I was there every day. I was like, I can get this shirt on the clearance rack for $4, $5. So I'm now flipping it. The shirts I was buying on eBay, now I'm selling them on eBay, right?
mm,
So I was flipping stuff in my dorm room, man. I had a whole setup with my point shoot camera, and I got to the point where, and I started to elevate. Like I was then getting into like tailoring and suits, things that made more money. Like Barker Black shoes was huge, Gucci loafers was huge. So I got to the point where I would not even have the item. So like, this is how the hustle was. You would list something, like you would have a pair of used Gucci loafers. You would throw those motherfuckers on the ground and take a shitty photo of them and put Gucci loafers on the listing.
uh,
I would eagle eye that shit and be like, first of all, this guy has no idea to take a photo. His description's terrible. He's not giving me the right info. So what I would do is I would list the same item you're selling at the same time. I would use stock photos from the Gucci website. I would write an awesome description. These are the best loafers that you'll ever have. These will last 10 years. You can dress them up. You can dress them down. And I would give you everything, measurements, whatever. I'd go to the Gucci store. I'd measure that loafer. I'd give you the width and the length. So
mhm.
I don't have the product. I would sell for like 50% more than you at the exact same time. And then I would
Yeah.
tell you to ship those things to my buyer. I wouldn't even touch the fucking product.
So
And I would be like,
you're just drop shipping it basically.
yeah, dude. It was like that was, I
The
mean,
OG drop shipper.
it was such a, there was so much room in that eBay market. And I was doing that for Dior suits and Purple Label Ralph Lauren and all kinds of stuff. And that's how I first learned about menswear. I was measuring all these garments. I was
Hmm.
styling them a little bit, taking better photos with shirts and ties. And I had this thing going. I was making like decent money on eBay, right?
Hmm.
So that was, and I was the best dressed guy on my basketball team for sure. I became the guy to like, because everyone on our team was like intimidated because we all came from somewhere else. We moved to New York City, and it's okay. We're going out on Saturday night in New York City. What are you wearing? No one knew what to do, right? So,
Yeah.
my
You're like, I got you.
yeah, I would come to their rooms, help them pick shit out. They would have like Christmas money. I would help them go shopping a little bit. Like I was helping guys with their wardrobes even back then, right?
Hmm.
And then I started writing a blog. I got to a point where I was like, guys, I can't come to all your rooms and do your personal styling. Like I'm just going to write a blog and write this stuff down. If you want, you could read it there. And that was what really ended up taking off and became Articles of Style today.
Yeah.
Blogging at that time was very much a product of good timing because
Yeah.
that was all we had. There was no social. It was the very beginning of what we have today with all this sponsored content and whatnot. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so at one point I was I was a junior in college, and at that point you got to figure out what you're going to do. And my
Hmm.
basketball career wasn't going the way I thought it was. I wanted to go to the NBA. I wanted to be Steve Nash, but like it became clear that that wasn't going to happen.
Hmm.
So at a school like Columbia, they point you to go into Wall Street. Like that's the direct road to the money. Is like okay, you go become a trader and whatnot, investment banker. So I had the internship at Citigroup in sales and trading, and I fought hard to get that. Um, that was my summer going into senior year, but it was 2008.
Yeah.
So this was like the worst time to be on Wall Street. It was like I was shocked. People were crying and leaving. It was like the world was falling apart. So I was like, okay, I'm not getting this fucking job. That's for sure. And
Why does everyone say this is so good? Yeah.
I was like, what? I don't want to be here. You want me to be here for 18 hours? No, thanks. So and I was wearing my eBay stuff. So I'm out here wearing Purple Label 3-piece suits. I got gold tie pins on. I got gold cufflinks. I'm a fucking intern. And these
Yeah.
guys are like making fun of me. They're like, who the fuck is this guy? And I
Hmm.
was clueless. Like I didn't read any of the paperwork they were giving me. I didn't know anything about the markets. It was like I was just like trying to like use my social ability to like wheel and deal. And one of my mentors, a guy that went to Columbia that was supposed to look out for the 2 Columbia people that were in this internship. This internship was like 2 people from Columbia, 2 from Harvard, 2 from Princeton. It was like, I got lucky to even be in it.
Yeah.
And he pulled me aside. He said, listen, man, first of all, you see the vibes. Like, you're not getting this job, obviously. Like, there might be one of you getting hired, and it's going to be the quant person,
Hmm.
So he was like, but why are you wearing, like, what the fuck are you wearing? And then I started talking to him about fashion. And I was very interested in what all these Wall Street guys were wearing on the trading floor because I was like, yo, what's up with his suit? And where did he get that? This guy's driving an Aston Martin. Like, what's up with this stuff? And they were
Hmm.
all getting custom suits. It was still that era. It's maybe a little bit more casual now, but at that time, guys were wearing like bespoke suits on the trading floor. It was still a
Yeah.
little bit of that era. So I got talking with this guy, and he was like, "Yeah, if you get the custom suit, the custom, that's the top level." Because I was wearing very high end, ready to wear that I was buying on eBay,
Hmm.
and I got obsessed with this idea. This was my new basketball now. This was
Hmm.
like, oh shit, like these guys are getting custom clothes. Like, what is that? So he introduced me to his tailor. This guy was making his stuff. So I booked an appointment. So I sold everything I had on eBay. I was like, okay, I'm going all in. I'm going full custom. Fuck it. Getting rid of all this designer stuff. I sold all my stuff. I had like $4,000 in my pocket. I walk into this tailor shop that he recommended me to go to and meet this guy, Michael Andrews.
Hmm.
Um, and I hit it off with him big time. It was like he was very welcoming. I was asking him a million questions about everything fabrics, fit, this, that. He bought me pizza for lunch. He bought me drinks after. I was there all day. I was like,
Hmm.
if a customer did that to me, I would be furious. I mean, not furious, but like, yeah, I was demanding a lot, right? I
Yeah.
was like asking him all about his business. I ended up buying 4 suits from the guy, and that was all the money I had on the 50% down payment, the first
Yeah.
half. So I'm like, don't worry, man. I'll come back in 6 weeks to pick up the suits when they're made. I'll give you the second half. What I'll hustle. I got some eBay shit going on. I had no eBay shit going on at the time. I had sold all my inventory, and I was back in basketball season. So when I came back 8 weeks later, 6 to 8 weeks later, I'm like, Mike, the suits are phenomenal. I love them, but I got bad news. I don't have the second half deposit. I'm fucking broke as a joke right now. And he was the nicest guy ever. And I started basically working for him. I was like, I'll sweep the floors, I'll do whatever, I'll work it off. And that was the beginning of a relationship with him. We grew his business. Like, it really took off from there. And I was blogging the whole time about that experience. And that's how we
Hmm.
became like the expert because I was like the guy's guy, right? I was like the guy you can have a beer with and talk
Yeah.
clothes online when that was not a space. It was like GQ, Esquire,
Yeah.
there was, and a couple blogs. Like I was early, right? So I just started sharing all this information. Hey, this is what I learned today about measuring guys. This is what I learned about fabric. This is what I learned about fit. Like, here's an issue we had. Here's a garment I designed or whatever.
Hmm.
And the blog just grew and grew and grew. And there wasn't a lot of competition at the time. So we became like huge. Like, we had millions of readers at that time.
Yeah.
Um, and it was fantastic because early blogging was like banner ads. It was like
Yeah.
you could write whatever you wanted, and every time the page load, you made a couple cents. And if the page loads a million times, you make a few grand, and you're like fucking. You can travel and do whatever you want. You can write whatever
Yeah.
you want. And then like everything changed after that. Like there was a couple good years where blogging was feasible to like write what you actually wanted and make almost like feel like side money. And then it
Mhm.
was like, okay, pop up lockers, no more banner ads. Now the brands wanted to be in the content. They wanted to just say brought to you by Calvin Klein, brought
Mhm.
to you by Kenneth Cole. Now I'm on the phone, like, hey, you can't say this, you can't swear in this article, you can't do this. And I hated that. I
Uh-huh.
just and that's what we see today. Like all the sponsored content is
Yeah.
it's the world now, right? But
Yep.
I was so against that. I was like, I want to keep my voice. I don't want you to fucking tell me what to say. I couldn't stand it. So that was the moment when basically, like, I'm still working at the tailor shop, but the blog is becoming like a full time job. So I'm like, we need to find a way to make money on this blog that isn't brought to you by Kenneth Cole, right? Like that was the
Yeah.
big, like, I can't do this anymore. So I wanted to come up with a product, and all through this time, people that were reading my blog were coming to New York. Like I had people flying from all over the world to come to me because they were reading my blog because they wanted me to design and measure them.
So they're coming to the shop that you're working at, basically. So
Yeah, so I'm bringing
you're
micro
helping grow
business.
this guy's business. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like I'm an early influencer in the blog space that is
Hmm.
bringing business to another guy's business.
Yeah.
And I'm meeting these guys every day. I can't believe, hey, thanks for reading it for the blog. Like I flew here from London just to get the suit. I want to work with you, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird. Like this. And the guy had to fly like 3 times. Like he had to
Hmm.
fly to look at the fabrics, the first meeting. Then he had to fly for the fitting and the base of the garment. And then he had to fly for the final garments to pick them up.
Yeah.
So like I'm like, whoa, first of all, the time involved and the money involved in the flights and hotels and whatnot. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. So why can't we do this online? That was the like, okay, I want to get out of sponsored content because I hate it. And I got these guys like inefficiently getting this product. There's got to be a way I can solve this, right?
Yeah.
So then I'm like, okay, I hate the way we're making money. I'm ready to fucking give it up. I'm like, I'm out of New York. I moved to Los Angeles just to like get out and just like get in a space of like thinking about how I'm going to, basically pivot at this point. I team up with 2 guys that I went to Columbia with who are like the smartest guys I knew. They were working at Facebook and Google at the time, but they were kind of sick of their jobs. I was like, hey, come help me figure out this, blog to product business. And then we started. It's a long story, I know, but then we
You
started
good? Yeah. I mean,
testing.
I wanted the story, so yeah,
Yeah, you asked for it. So
I asked.
then we started we started testing all the online custom. I was like, okay, we're not the first ones to do custom clothing online, but let's figure out
Sure.
how it's going down. And everyone at that time, and still today, is basically do it yourself. Like no
Uh-huh.
service, no expertise. It's like measure yourself, like Indochino, right? Measure yourself, plug it in, and then a
Yeah.
suit comes, and no one cares, no one looks at it. It's low price, it's low quality. So we tested all of them, and we got at this point, I became like the head fitter at Michael Andrews. I was like one of the head guys there, so I knew my shit already.
Hmm.
Um, I also skipped the point where I went to fashion school and did menswear design for 2 years. So
Okay.
I learned how to tailor and like
So you've built skills at this point, like.
yeah, like when the blog was taking off and Michael Andrews' business was growing. When I graduated from Columbia, the true story is I needed a student visa because I'm not American. So I was like
Right.
working under the table, basically, like, okay, I can't do this for too long. So I went back to school because, yes, I
Mm.
wanted to learn the actual ins and outs of how clothes are made if I'm going to be this expert. But
Right.
also, I needed to solve that problem. Um, so I know I know a lot about I know the ins and outs of how this game works, right? And I shared that on the blog as well. So at one period, I was working in the tailor shop, meeting with customers, measuring them, fitting them, going to school to learn hand tailoring, and then blogging about menswear. So my whole life was just like menswear,
And
you know?
yeah.
So fast forward, we're in LA and we're testing all this custom stuff, and it was like terrible. It was so bad. It was like these garments are awful. I would never wear this stuff. Like I'm a professional measurer, measuring myself, and I'm getting a terrible garment. So it was like, how come the in-person experience is so good and the online experience is so bad? And the reason you go to someone in person is they take care of you, right? They do your fitting, they do your measuring, they help you pick the fabric and design.
Hmm.
You look
Yeah.
at the final product to make sure, okay, is this like actually on point or do we need to fix it? So we kind of reverse engineered the fitting process and came up with a way to do that online. And
Mm.
that was like making test garment. We make like a shell try on, like a custom made test suit, send that to you, review it with you, make adjustments, and then make the final garment. And make the final garment in the highest quality we could because we knew it was going to fit well. So there wasn't a risk in like hand tailoring a garment online. And that was the birth of Articles of Style. We went from the style blogger writing content, sponsored content, to this digital, bespoke, very high touch personal service online. Um, And because I was blogging the whole time and building up this hype and this future customer base, our first day in business was like huge. It was like a $40,000 day, you know.
Right.
And we were just at that point. It was we were off to the races, you know. But none of it would have never happened without 10 years of blogging,
Yeah.
and building trust, and building a personal brand where people wanted to buy from me because they felt like they knew me, you know.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
it's kind of a classic. Your first day in business was $40,000. But if you take, this is what I used to say about running too, or your basketball, if you play basketball professionally or whatever, it's like, I might win a race and win like $2,000 or something like that. And people are like, $2,000 for, if it's like a mile,
1 hour work.
well, if it was a mile, it's 4 minutes of work, right?
Right.
$2,000 for 4 minutes of work is pretty good. And I'm like, yeah, but there was a whole bunch of work before. Like my hourly rate is not good. Trust me.
Yeah. That's
So yeah, that's it, or people say it as like, oh yeah, overnight success, 10 years in the making. It's a little cliche. I think that's like a better analogy of like, yeah, like I would make $2,000 in that 4 minutes that took me 400 hours just in the last 2 months. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And that's kind of what you're talking about. It's like you just built this thing up. There's a makeup brand, and the name is escaping me at the moment, that built in the same way around the same time period. I think also in New York City. But yeah, like when kind of hit the blogging boom, she was doing beauty blogging. She was learning how they like do the makeup for models and stuff like that, and blogging about it, doing the same kind of stuff. And I can't even remember the name of the brand at the moment, but they're a really big brand now too. And same kind of thing. She like just didn't like any of the products and didn't want to do the sponsored content. So it's really, really interesting story.
I wasn't even thinking this at the time because I was just in that world of bespoke tailoring, which is already so tight.
Yeah.
But it was like we're solving the absolutely perfect fitting garment online. Like, and we're talking about like minutia of like little, what is this little wrinkle on my shoulder? I mean, we can talk about that all day. And the highest quality. So describing like what a full canvas jacket is, what a handmade jacket is. Like we're going after a guy basically that is buying Savile Row garments. And
Yeah.
I didn't even really realize how niche that was when I was in it.
Right. 'Cause you're just in it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're trying to be the best, right? So like when you're at the top of any game, you're in the weeds. Like the average person is like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah, exactly. No, that's true of like sport. I mean, some sports have more mass appeal than others. It's also true of like, my podcast used to be very like e-commerce focused. And I just realized like what a small world that is. I hit some growth ceilings with it, right? So it's, yeah, you're trying to be the best at it, but it's a very small, niche thing.
Very small, and it's the hardest customer,
Right.
because
Yeah. Because
this
they
guy,
know they're on their stuff. Yeah.
and they want to try different brands. They want to test out, okay, how does the canvas from this brand compare to the canvas of this brand? And I'm talking about the fucking piece inside the lapel. This is the internal components of a jacket. It's
Yeah.
like it's so niche. So over time, I think really what happened was like I would see guys wearing my stuff, and they just weren't wearing it well, and they weren't wearing it right. Right? They can have a beautiful, expensive, bespoke suit, but they don't have the right shirts, they don't have the right ties, so it's not really achieving the end result, which should be like people look at you like, damn, who's that guy? That guy's got his shit together. I want to know who that guy is. So that's the ultimate end goal, is just those like first impressions, those introductions, that personal brands being elevated.
Yeah.
So over time, it became like today, it's more about the wardrobe and less about the individual garment. We're still making really high-end individual garments, but when I'm meeting with a guy, it's not like, hey, let's talk about the fit of your suit. It's like, hey, let's talk about who you are, what's in your closet, and what should be in there for the different, parts of your life.
Yeah.
But it's like you have to solve bigger problems. Like that was the lesson for me. It was like we're solving super niche problems for super niche guys, and the average guy just doesn't. It doesn't even help him, right? So now, because of some of the marketing we're doing, we're getting guys that they're not menswear experts. They're just like, hey, I want to. Anyway, yeah. Honestly, guys that wear black T-shirts every day is a big percentage of the people I meet with. They're like, hey, I'm wearing these black tees, I'm wearing hoodies. Like I'm comfortable every day, pretty much wear the same uniform. But like when
Mhm.
I go out or when I go on dates or when I go to business meetings, I feel like I don't really know what to do, you know?
Yeah.
So then so what I actually do today is I meet with guys on Zoom. The first point of contact is a free 15-minute consultation where I talk to the guy about his wardrobe and I just say, hey man, what's like tell me about your life. Like what do you do for work? Where do you live? What's the temperature? Do you dress up? Like what do you like to do? Like what are some of the pieces you feel like you're missing? And then I come up with like, okay, here's your ideal wardrobe. And it's not a lot many pieces. It's like 10 to 15 pieces.
Yeah.
But again, they all fit him right, and they all can be mixed and matched. And that's the mixing and matching is huge because it solves all the anxiety and the picking outfits and all of this. Like ultimately, what I'm doing is saving guys time
Yeah.
and taking the stress off of like, does this work together? Is this appropriate? Like, dude, I know it's appropriate because I fucking made it for you. So
Yeah.
just pull it out. Like I like to say, like my guys can get dressed in the dark in 2 minutes.
And
Like
I'll look at.
they can just reach in their closet. Okay, every shirt works with every jacket, works with every pant, whatever.
Yeah.
And the thought takes the thought out of it. It takes the fit part out of it, trying on different sizes and getting stuff adjusted and all this. And just
Yeah.
making their life easier has become the sort of bigger problem that we're solving, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. Like you're saying that, and I'm like, yeah, no, look, most days are like this, and when I do the pod remotely, or even when I do the pod in person, it's like my vibe is the black tee, black hat guy, or the black, it's like that. That's part of my brand a little bit. But I also
Yeah.
do a lot of like, so I'm going to an event. I work at a company called Triple Well. I'm the head of consulting there, and I'm going to an event, and like I'll be on stage a couple times. I'm like I should have like an elevated like stage look. You know what I mean? Like maybe not be the black hoodie, black hat guy on stage. Like maybe
Yeah.
just then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or like I don't know, is there like an elevated black hoodie, black hat guy? I don't know. Like just get
Well,
the
I think
nicest, get a Kith hoodie or something. Like
yes.
but like yeah, like so I'm thinking about that. And then the event that we're doing in New York in a couple weeks specifically has a gala, like an award show. And I'm like, I got nothing for that, like
Right.
the
Right.
black t-shirt guy doesn't have any. So I think a lot of guys are like that, right? It's like, yeah, most days, look, black t-shirt works out. It's fine,
Well,
but like, what
I think,
about those times where you don't know what to do?
well, I think a lot of people, probably most guys are uniform dressers. Like they
Yeah.
basically wear the same thing every day because it makes their life simpler and easier. They don't have to think about it. Like Steve
Yeah.
Jobs was the huge champion of that, the black turtleneck every day, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Zuckerberg did the thing for a while with a gray t-shirt or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, my thing with that is like, who the fuck wants to be Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg when you're talking about aesthetic style? Like, of course, we want to be them from a fucking entrepreneur, but
Yeah.
like, you don't want to necessarily look like them without the fucking wealth and skill set.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a good point. Like you get away with a black turtleneck every day
when you're
when
the
you're Steve
fucking
Jobs.
guy, when you're changing the world, yeah, you can wear whatever
Yeah.
the fuck you want. Hello, but like, you're not him, bro. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
Mark
so my thing
Zuckerberg's
is,
jeans and t-shirt combo looked so bad. Like you would not like his look was not good when he was doing that. You know what I
dude,
mean?
that
But like
guy.
yeah.
I mean, aesthetically, we can't even. So my point though is like, what I'm trying to do is like basically create that uniform with more variety.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that
like,
makes sense.
it's still kind of that same idea where it's easy. I don't think about it, but like, okay, if you need to go formal, you need to go business, you need to go business casual. You have these options, but you don't have to worry about like putting too much thought or wondering, okay, does this fit? Does this work together? Like, that's what we're trying to help guys really with, And it doesn't take that big of a closet either. Like most guys, 15 pieces from
Yeah.
t-shirts, polos, shirts, trousers, sweaters, suit, sport coat, boom. And we have a million examples of this on our website. If you're wondering what I'm talking, like people will visit our website like dozens of times before they'll look at products or book an appointment. So
Yeah.
it's the long game. I'm in this to sell a guy a $5,000, $8,000, $12,000, $25,000 wardrobe package, and
Mhm.
that's not the click on Google ad and buy
No.
overnight. That's not my game, right? So I have to tell them the story. It's a long process to go from lead to client. But
Yeah.
ideally, the client has a really good experience and just comes back. So like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
most guys, like I'm still getting guys that are like, "Hey man, I've been watching you for 10 years. I was reading the blog in 2010,
Yeah.
and now I finally got promoted, or I got whatever. I got my
You
money
got enough money.
together, and I'm ready to like." And that is honestly a big percentage of my customers are guys that have been watching my shit for forever.
Yeah.
And those are the guys that I want to kind of work with and cultivate. And it's, for me, it's about lifetime value more than overall number of customers, you know?
Yeah. So the brand that I slipped my mind earlier, that was the makeup brand that kind of built the same way, is Glossier, by the way.
Glossier, that's what I thought it was, yeah.
Yep. It's Glossier, and same, very, very, very similar story, very similar time period. Dan, that's time, dude. I'll tell you something. Like I told you before this, I try and keep these to under an hour because I like to post the
Yeah,
full
I know
episode
we're
on Twitter.
over now. We're talking.
Yeah, because I like to post the full episode on Twitter, and it's easier if it's under an hour, and like a little BTS for anybody who's this deep into the deep end of the episode.
Yeah.
But this has been an incredible conversation. I've had a really good time talking to you. Obviously, I think it's Articles of Style on Instagram. You like where? Yeah, tell people where to find you. TikTok, Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, best
Website.
place is definitely the website. You get the full experience, articlesofstyle.com. We're at Articles of Style on all social.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
Good content. Like if nothing else, go check out the content, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean,
if you're
I
this
should
deep
also.
into the episode, you probably have the vibe, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're not a potential customer, there's still a ton of, like, a lot of guys just read our blog and go shopping. That's like, there's a lot of, all of the old blog content is still there. So we have like a pseudo encyclopedia of menswear in some ways that spans 10 years. And SEO, I didn't even mention, is a huge part of our business still on some of those old articles. And that's one of the beauties of menswear, is that it's pretty evergreen. Like, it doesn't really change that much. We don't touch like too trendy stuff. So how a suit should fit, if I wrote that 5 years ago, is still relevant, you know?
Right.
So yeah, if you're looking for anything classic menswear, it's a good resource.
Nice. Okay, I just wrote down, I don't know if I'm gonna do this every time. This is just something I am trying out today. Quick takeaways that are on my brain from this episode of like, just look, like whatever it is you're trying to do, trying to build a podcast, trying to build ecom brand, trying to just be good at your job, whatever it is. Articles of Style is successful. This is the statement I wrote. Articles of Style is successful for two reasons, in my view, based on this conversation. One, lead with value, right? Like you just said, there's a lot of people read the blog and just go shopping, right? Like you're just out there giving value and in a genuine way. Just like, I'm just sharing about me and about what I know, sharing it with the world. And some people come from that.
I mean, that's what entrepreneurship is. Like, you gotta, if you're not helping people, like if you're not trying to change people's lives for the better, you're going to be so capped on what you can do.
Yep. Two, the other reason that I have here, this is an observation I have across talking to a lot of founders, specifically physical product founders. The ones who are marketers and don't necessarily care that much about the product and the customers, they're just kind of like marketers. They're like, oh yeah, there was an opportunity to make money, and that's why I went into this business. They tend to do okay, but they only do well, really, really well, if they themselves or someone high up in their organization is what I call a brand champion. They are the customer. They would be the customer of this product. And they like get the customer. So that's lead with value. You need a brand champion. And then the other thing was what we spent a lot of time talking about, and that is just obsession and commitment, like the kind of stuff nobody else spent, 8 hours a night in the gym, or, the mornings in the gym and stuff. People don't do that. Normal people don't do that. But if you don't want a normal result, you have to do normal things, right? So takeaways, man. Dan, appreciate you being here. Everybody go follow Articles of Style everywhere. Go up your wardrobe game. And we'll see you next time.
Dude, thanks for having me.